What's happening, baby? You already know who it is. It's Dallas Clark, also known as Indo is my Nindo, and I'd love to welcome you back to another episode of the Fantasy Football Huddle presented by the Huddle Chat Sports. And I'm so excited to bring you guys today's episode, and it feels like the universe is trying to stop me from bringing it from y'all, man. My biggest supporters have been begging me to bring y'all this episode. I've been wanting to bring y'all this episode. I've even had this episode recorded previously, and there were some strange technical difficulties that I had never dealt with before, and I had to re-record it. But I guarantee y'all, here at the Fantasy Football Huddle, me, Dallas Clark, your boy, your host, ain't nothing stopping me from bringing y'all this fantasy football information. I'm like a postman on this stuff. It's rain, sleet, snow, shine, even on Sundays. I'm bringing y'all fantasy football information. Ain't nothing going to stop me. So if you know somebody that may be struggling with their fantasy football team, may need some fantasy football advice, or just loves listening to fantasy football tips, tricks, bring them over here to the Fantasy Football Huddle. Maybe you're that somebody. Bring them to the Fantasy Football Huddle. Make sure they hit that subscription button and the notifications bell, because we're coming out with daily fantasy football information at this point and through the rest of the season. So you need to know when those episodes are dropping and the moment that they do. Now, of course, I got to thank you all, because the Fantasy Football Huddle has been received so well in just the first week that we've been doing this. I'm seeing every episode get more and more views upon it. But you know, there's one thing that I'm not seeing more and more of, and I'm confusion. I'm just sitting here, confusion. It's not getting more and more likes. I mean, it should be right there. I think you might be able to see it just right underneath me, right here where I'm pointing. A thumb facing upwards. I mean, there's a down one too. You can hit that one if you want. I'm not trying to force you to do anything, but if you're sitting here watching my video and you like my content, why aren't you liking me? What do I got to do to make you like me? Because I love y'all. I'm here for y'all. And y'all are watching the content. What do I got to do to make you like it? We're going to try to figure that out today here on the Start 'Em and Sit 'Ems episode of the Fantasy Football Huddle. But of course, before we get that cracked off, I got to invite y'all. I got to extend y'all a nice little invitation. No pressure. If you don't smoke them, don't smoke them. But if you do smoke them, I invite you to smoke them if you got them. Now's the time that we spark it up and get everything started off right. So let's start off these Startums and Situms of Week 1 of the 2021 NFL Fantasy Football season. And let's get right into the news. Now, to start things off correctly with my Startums and Situms, I want to explain something to you. I want to make something very clear. When I'm talking about a Startum and Situm, I'm not going to be talking about a player that's going to be a Patrick Mahomes, a Devontae Adams, a Christian McCaffrey. We're not talking about those automatic starts, those players that you drafted at a very prime pick in the first, maybe even the second round, that you're obviously going to start unless you're crazy, drunk, or that player is injured. There's no reason you're not starting Patrick Mahomes. There's no really bad matchup for Patrick Mahomes. So we're going to not waste our time on those obvious starts. We're going to be talking about those players that are debatable starts, those players that, am I putting him or him in my flex? Am I putting him or him in my RB2? We're going to be figuring that out here in the Startums and Situms. So to start off my Startums and Situms, we're going to go right down the line. I'm going to give y'all my start of the week at quarterback in Week 1 of your fantasy football season. It's going to be Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson loves to play under the primetime lights, and that Monday Night Football against Las Vegas is going to be just another showing from Lamar Jackson. It's going to show you why he won the MVP in 2019, and it's going to show you why Lamar Jackson was a top 2 quarterback going into last season's fantasy football draft. You're also looking at the Las Vegas Raiders being a kind of average defense. So quarterbacks typically score above their average against the Raiders. He also has more rushing opportunities with J.K. Dobbins being out of the picture. He's also added some new additions to his offense. So I think everything looks great for Lamar Jackson to have a great game on Monday Night Football. So I'm definitely putting him as my start of the week. But my sit of the week, the man I'm completely staying away from at quarterback this week, is going to be Ryan Tannehill from the Tennessee Titans. I don't like anything about him in Week 1. They've got a new offensive coordinator. You're looking at him coming into a very rush-heavy approach with Derrick Henry. Their offense has such a low passing volume. That's what keeps him from being a top 10 quarterback. Arizona's passing defense is fairly decent, so I don't think he's going to be able to work with it. Plus, he lost 2 targets last year in Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith. He did replace those with Julio Jones, but that's 2 for 1. I don't know if Julio is that good to replace 2 men worth of targets. So I'm staying away from Ryan Tannehill this week. But there is one man that I am going with this week. It's going to be Tampa Bay. Tom Brady himself He's got the best wide receiver room in the NFL. You're looking at a Thursday night football in Tampa Bay, returning Super Bowl champions, haven't lost a single starter on either side of the ball. And Dallas Cowboys, their defense, their passing defense is kind of suspect. It's a little below average. So I think Tom Brady has a great game on this coming Thursday night to open up the season. And if you start Tom Brady, you're going to be looking at your roster for those 3 days, waiting for Sunday morning, happy that you chose Tom Brady. Now, who I'm not going with is going to be Justin Herbert, or as we like to call him here on the show,
Justin Herbert.
And that's going to be because Washington football team has one of the best defenses in the NFL against the pass. It's in Washington. They've got a new head coach and a new offensive coordinator. He's entering year 2, which is entering that sophomore slump. And I don't know if you ever heard of a sophomore slump, but it's pretty real, ladies and gentlemen. It's getting real. The sophomore slump, I mean, maybe Justin Herbert's the guy that can avoid it, but the track record that the sophomore slump has, I don't see Justin Herbert having a great week 1. I'm not saying he's going to have a bad game, but I'm not saying that he's going to have a good game. I would stay away from him if you have the chance. Now, who I am going to go with, though, is going to be arrogant Rodgers. Y'all know how I feel about the Packers and Aaron Rodgers, but he's got a ridiculously high touchdown rate. He's got the number 1 wide receiver in the league, and New Orleans has a questionable pass defense. I think Aaron Rodgers, they're going to have the ability to get up early and often on that New Orleans Saints defense, and I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a really good game. 2 quarterbacks left that I don't think are going to have good games. I'm staying away from Russell Wilson against Indianapolis Colts. Now, I know y'all see all this stuff behind me and think I might just be a homer, but I mean, the Indianapolis Colts have a really good defense. We've added on some more some pass rushing ability as well. So we're going to be getting to Russell Wilson a lot more, and the Colts fans hope, of course. I also think our cornerbacks and our safeties, Julian Blackmon, looking really good. Kenny Moore back there. We have a really good pass defense as well. Now, Seattle does have good wide receivers and a good quarterback. But if you have the option, I'm staying away from Russell Wilson this week. Another man I'm staying away from is going to be Dakota Prescott. I mean, I know y'all already know what I've been saying about Dakota. I think he's going to be the number 1 quarterback this year. But that does not mean week 1. It's a long fantasy football season. Fact of the matter is that Dak Prescott missed a ton of time last season with his injury. He didn't really get to do any practice or playing in the preseason because coming back, he got that shoulder soreness, which is to be expected, not being throwing a football in almost a year and then going back to throwing hundreds of footballs a day. You could see how that could happen. So he didn't really get a lot of action in the preseason or in training camp either. You're also looking at Tampa Bay's defense being one of the best in the league. I just think things don't bode well for Dakota Prescott or any of the Dallas Cowboys wide receivers this week. Like I said, I don't think they're going to have bad games, but if you have another option, stay away from that man. But I do have a sleeper quarterback for y'all. If you came out of your draft and you're struggling at quarterback and you're maybe looking at the waiver wire saying, man, who could I pick up and put in that week 1? Who's a good streaming option quarterback? My sleeper quarterback for you this week is going to be Jalen Hurts from Philadelphia. Y'all have heard me say before that an elite fantasy football quarterback gives you mobility. They've 8 of the top 10 quarterbacks last year gave you 200-plus yards rushing, and 7 of those 8 gave you 15+% of their points through rushing. Jalen Hurts fits right into that category. You're looking also at Atlanta's defense being absolutely garbanzo beans. They're the 31st overall defense and 32nd against the pass. And if you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, there's only 32 teams in the NFL. That makes them the worst passing defense in the league. Things could change, but I also think that Jalen Hurts wants to make a point, show Philadelphia why they picked him over Carson, why they picked him over Joe Flacco and any of the other bench quarterbacks that they may have had in question to start over Jalen Hurts. So I think Jalen Hurts is a great sleeper option this week. I love his potential. Going into the running backs, my stardom running back of the week is going to be James Robinson from Jacksonville. If you haven't heard that Travis Etienne is hurt, you may really need to go back and watch a lot of my episodes because you really need to get caught up at this point in the season. It's too late in the season for you to be this far behind. But Houston's defense is absolutely terrible. They are worse than Atlanta. I swear to God. The Houston Texans are the worst organization in the NFL, the worst offense in the NFL, the worst defense in the NFL. Houston Texans suck. They're garbage. I'm starting everybody against Houston every week until Houston can make some changes, and I doubt that they can. But you're looking at James Robinson without Travis Etienne being there. He's the number 1 running back. Not many people are going to be taking carries from him. And they've also got a rookie quarterback in the house. So they're going to be going with a safe approach, having Trevor Lawrence throw a little bit less passes, going with more of a run-heavy approach, and get him kind of acclimated to the NFL. One man that I'm staying away from, my sit of the week at running back, is going to be Tevin Coleman from the New York Jets. We don't know what his role is going to be. We don't know what Ty Johnson's role is going to be. We don't know what that Jets offense is going to look like. I also think the Carolina Panthers are going to put the whooping the whooping upon the New York Jets this week, and they're going to go down big, and they're going to go down early, and they're not going to be able to run late in the game. It just doesn't bode well for Tevin Coleman this week. I'm staying away from him, and he's got to show me something. Another man that I'm staying away from this week is going to be Myles Gaskin from Miami. I like Miami's offense. I like what Miami's got potential this year. But say what you want about the New England Patriots, they've got a damn good defense. There's also a potential running back by committee coming here in Miami, so I kind of want to see the situation if I have the opportunity. Now, if Myles Gaskin is your number 2 running back, of course, you got to start him. But if you have the option, stay away from Myles Gaskin. But who I do go with is Mr. Eclair, Clyde EdwardsOlai. He's going to be playing against Cleveland, and Cleveland has a average rushing defense. And I think that KC, with that big explosive offense that they are, against the Cleveland Browns, I see the Kansas City Chiefs going up big, and they go up early. And Clyde EdwardsOlai is going to be able to kind of get that garbage time runs. I also think he's an insanely good passing target as well, and you know how Kansas City loves to pass. So go with Clyde EdwardsOlai this week if you have the opportunity. But one man I'm not going with is going to be Josh Jacobs. Now, let me key in on this. I haven't got to even read the breaking news because it happened right before I started the recording of this episode. But apparently there's a new running back in Las Vegas. I'm going to get it edited into the video so you guys should be able to see it here on the screen. But I didn't get to quite see who it was. But I had Josh Jacobs on my sit list before they started adding new running backs. You're looking at their O-line being just unproven, and they dissolved from last season. Kenyon Drake does hurt him. As much as I'm not afraid of Kenyon Drake reducing his role a lot this year, Kenyon Drake does hurt him. He stands in his way as a pass catcher. He stands in his way for some of the carries. And right now I think that Josh Jacobs is fairly touchdown dependent. I think Josh Jacobs needs about 13 touchdowns this season in order to be a top 12 running back. So he can do it, but he's touchdown dependent, and you want to kind of avoid any risk that you can when you're coming into fantasy football. Now, a running back that I will start this week is New England Patriots, Damien Harris. Same thing with James Robinson. They've got a rookie quarterback going this week. They're going to go with a safe approach. You're looking at a Miami rushing defense that's fairly average, and you're also looking at Mike McCorkle at quarterback, not Cameron Newton. He's not going to be snaking those goal line carries from you, Damien Harris. Damien Harris is going to get, if he gets to the goal line, it's most likely going to be Damien Harris. It's not going to be Mike McCorkle taking the ball in with his legs. I mean, he could every once in a while, but I doubt it. I think that Damien Harris has a big week this week, and you really want to start him. Now, my sleeper running back for you this week is going to be Gus Edwards from the Baltimore Ravens. It became a little bit less of a sleeper as time with J.K. Dobbins, because who really knows how he got valued in your draft. But I think that Gus Edwards this week, who's taking carries from Gus Edwards besides Lamar Jackson, and Gus Edwards' role is really to take pressure off Lamar Jackson. He's got an extremely good matchup against that Las Vegas Raiders on Monday Night Football, and he's pretty much the only running back right now in Baltimore. I think everything looks so beautiful for Gus Edwards that if you have him on your team, if you were able to be that one lucky son of a gun that got Gus Edwards in your draft, you plug him in your lineup this week, and you're happy with the results at the end of the week. Now, I do want to let you guys know I want to tempt my expectations. I want to pump my brakes on 2 running backs. I'm not quite saying sit them, but I'm saying we need to chill the hell out on these 2 men. First of all, Saquon Barkley. We don't even know if he's officially going to be playing week 1 after missing all of that time. Plus, he hasn't even been able to practice or play or do anything, even less activity than Dak Prescott. So even if he is ready for week 1, is he going to be ready to take that 20 carries that your fantasy football team needs, that the New York Giants need? I doubt it. And then Javonte Williams from Denver. Why y'all acting like Javonte Williams is an automatic RB2 like Melvin Gordon didn't kick out the hometown hero, Phillip Lindsay, just last season? They decided on Melvin Gordon. Javonte Williams is going to be a good RB2, but chill out on Javonte Williams trying to talk about like he's an RB2, he's an automatic start. I'm chilling on him this week. I'm chilling on Saquon Barkley. Now, Saquon Barkley, if you got him, you most likely got him at a valuable pick, so you might not have another choice. But I'm saying pump the brakes. Don't expect anything big from those 2 running backs. Moving on from the running backs, we're going to the pass catchers. I'm looking at my start of the week. The big name at wide receiver this week for me is going to be Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson is going to have an increased role on this team this year. You're looking at Sam Darnold having something to prove, being with the Carolina Panthers, going back against New York Jets. And if you don't remember, Robbie Anderson also played for the New York Jets. So you're looking at Sam Darnold, the quarterback, Robbie Anderson, the number 1 wide receiver, both returning to New York with something to prove, with a chip on their shoulder, and wanting to go in there and punch the New York Jets in the mouth. I think that it's going to bode well for both Robbie Anderson and Sam Darnold, but I think Robbie Anderson is going to be my start of the week at wide receiver. A person that I'm staying away from, my sit of the week at wide receiver, is going to be Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson, you drafted at probably a very high value pick. He's more of like a third or fourth round wide receiver, depending on how the running backs and depending on if you're PPR or non-PPR. But I'm staying away from Allen Robinson. You got Andy Dalton throwing the football, and I think Allen Robinson is going to be a great target this season. But as so long as Andy Dalton is chucking him ducks up and down the field, Allen Robinson is extremely limited, and I don't really feel comfortable starting Allen Robinson until he has a great matchup or Justin Fields starts throwing passes. That's all I can say. Now, another player that I'm staying away from at wide receiver is going to be Deontay Johnson from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Nothing really much can be said, but Buffalo has a good defense. He's also in an extremely big target share, and the Pittsburgh Steelers don't have that same chemistry that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do. If Deontay Johnson's having a big game, Deontay Johnson's having a big game. Nobody else is. If Chase Claypool's having a big game, Chase Claypool's having a big game. Nobody else is. So they kind of go with that hot hand approach with their wide receiver. So I kind of want to stay away from Deontay Johnson this week. But who I will want to go with is Antonio Brown, as well as any other Tampa Bay Buccaneer wide receiver. But Antonio Brown has a huge role in the offense. You're looking at after he joined the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he had more yards than Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. He had more targets than Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. He had more touchdowns than Chris Godwin. He had a big role in the offense. Tom Brady loves him. And the Cowboys' pass defense, as we've talked about before, is fairly suspect. So I'm staying away, or I'm starting. I'm plugging in Antonio Brown, El Bapo, the man, the myth, the legend. But I'm also staying away from Keenan Allen from the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, just like the same thing that we said about
Justin Herbert.
You're going to be looking at Washington has a scary defense, man. Not many targets. There are not many other targets in Los Angeles to take pressure off of him. Mike Williams is kind of disappointing. You're looking at the tight end situation is very suspect in Los Angeles right now. Keenan Allen is really one of the main focal points, and he gets that pressure, and nobody else really kind of helps him relieve of that pressure. So I'm staying away from Keenan Allen this week. But a person that I do want to start, two people that I want to start this week, is going to be Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. I think Matthew Stafford has something to prove. And you're looking at the Chicago cornerback situation. Like, bro, they're basically starting Mitchell High School's cornerbacks right now. They just released their number one cornerback, and they were already the worst cornerback league in the room last year. Now their cornerback room is filled with 5th and 6th round 2021 draft picks and some undrafted free agents. I mean, that just doesn't. I would like to start everybody that's catching a ball against Chicago's defense for the next few weeks until they can make some changes as well. So if you got Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods, start them. But who I do stay away from this week is going to be Michael Gallup from the Dallas Cowboys. It's the exact same thing that we talked about Dak Prescott. Tampa Bay's got good defense, plus Michael Gallup's the number 3 wide receiver in that option. And you're just looking at plain and simple, he's got a bad matchup no matter who lines up against him. My sleeper wide receiver for the week this week, though, ignore all the things behind me. Michael Pittman Jr. is going to be my sleeper wide receiver of this week. I think with T.Y. Hilton now, he's the obvious number 1 wide receiver. He's proven to be a reliable wide receiver. He hasn't proven to do much after the catch, but he also had a limited role last season. I think that Carson Wentz is going to play week 1 as well. As much as I'm staying away from Carson Wentz at quarterback, I think he gives Michael Pittman some good targets, a better opportunity than Phillip Rivers did. I'm going with Michael Pittman this week against an average Seattle Seahawks defense. I like his matchup. I like his situation. Plus, he's the number 1 wide receiver. Plug Michael Pittman into your lineups as soon as you get the opportunity. Wrapping everything up, we're going on to the tight ends today. So I'm looking at just one from each. We're looking at Kyle Pitts being my stardom tight end of the week. I think that Kyle Pitts, I mean, we haven't been able to really see him much in game action, but let's not forget what they were saying about this man, who this man is. I think he's the next Calvin Johnson, and he's at the tight end position. You're looking at Atlanta always having had that nice, safe tight end. You're looking at how many good tight ends have played for Atlanta. I think Kyle Pitts may end up being one of the best, depending on what the quarterback situation ends up being after Matty Ice. But I'm starting Kyle Pitts this week. Who I'm not starting is going to be TJ Hockenson, though. We still don't know what's going on with that shoulder. We still don't know what's going on with how well Jared Goff is going to play with that Detroit Lions team. I'd like nothing about anything going on right now with the Detroit Lions, especially TJ Hockenson, so I'm staying away from TJ this week. But my sleeper of the week is going to be Evan Engram from the New York Giants. Listen, we still don't know what's going on with Saquon. We still don't know what's going on with Kenny Golladay. Out of all of the targets, out of all of the skilled position players for the New York Giants, who has the most rapport with Daniel Jones? Evan Engram. Who's the most explosive target after Saquon Barkley for Daniel Jones? Evan Engram. I'm going with Evan Engram this week. He's definitely my sleeper tight end of the week. Now, as far as defenses go, I've got 4 defenses for you to start, and I've got a few for you to sit. I'm looking at the Rams defense, Los Angeles Rams defense, the San Francisco 49ers defense, the Carolina Panthers defense, and the Denver Broncos defense. All this week will give you great returns and great production. I definitely go with those defenses for you. And then the defenses I stay away from, as much as Tampa Bay is a good defense, I'm staying away from Tampa Bay's defense. Dallas Cowboys have a good offense. They have a lot of weapons. So if anybody can compromise that Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, it's the Kansas City Chiefs or the Dallas Cowboys. There are a few other teams, but I think the Dallas Cowboys, they do have the opportunity to ball out against that Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. So I just don't feel comfortable starting it with how high I drafted it. I'm also looking to stay away from that Washington football team defense. I mean, as much as I talked about who their matchups are going to be this week, I think that Washington football team against the Los Angeles Chargers, it's the same thing that can be said about the Dallas Cowboys. They've got a lot of weapons. They have the exact recipe that's needed to compromise that Washington football team defense. So I definitely think that going away from Washington, if you have the chance, is a smart move this week. I'm also staying away from the Chicago Bears defense. It used to be a good defense, but with how absolutely just terrible their cornerback room is right now, I want nothing to do with the Chicago Bears defense. Stay completely away from it. But that is going to do it for me today for the stardoms and situms of week 1. I feel like it went a little bit longer for me than I wanted it to. We'll see if we can lower it down a little bit next week. But those will be the stardoms and situms for week 1. If you have any questions, if you have any lineup questions, please ask them here. Drop them in the comments. Hit me up on Twitter at the Huddle Chat. Hit me up on Facebook. Look it up at the Huddle Chat Sports. You'll be able to get in contact with us, and we'll put your episodes. We're doing daily episodes, so we'll put your questions up on the episodes as soon as we get them. It'll be featured in that very next episode. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much again for being with me here today at the Fantasy Football Huddle. I'm your boy Indo Ismanindo, also known as Dallas Clark, and I hope that your plans never stop growing and that the news never stops showing. But hey, thank you for being with me today. Make sure you like that button, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notifications bell, and I'm all the way the fuck up out of here, baby. Peace out.